Sasquatch, Yahoo, Phantom of the Forest, you Spearfinger, Fire Dragon, Ohio Grassman, Silver Giant, Bloodless Howler, West Virginia Vampire, Coyote King, Hogzilla, Devil Dog, Coyote Killer. Cave creature, Mothman, Smoke Wolf, a Lizard Demon, Ashman, Grafton Monster, Cow-killing Bastard, Shadow Creature, Dustman, Cherokee, Death Cat, Wild Man, Great Fire Rape. What else do I have to say? Steal yourself some chicken wire, and I'll get some lumber. Catch the Thunder Brothers. Don't you dare get out of the golf cart. We can keep our big seats while we hunt the big feet. Snarly Gastro Team, Red Island Bear Beast, Silver Giant, Squalling Savage, Black Wolf was kind of average, Stone Giant, Raven Mocker, Midnight Whistler, Wampus Beast, Wawa Woman, Ohio Grassman again. Technically Huckleberry Wolfman or Wolf County, need to find the X again if we hunt the Lightning Man. Webster's Werewolf, Daily Howl, Kentucky Hellhound, Little Girl, Headless Horror, I can't take it anymore. Steal yourself some chicken wire, and I'll get some lumber. Catch the Thunder Brothers. Don't you dare get out of the golf cart. We can keep our big seats while we hunt the big feet.
This here's Bigfeets, the only Mountain Monsters watch-along podcast that is an officially licensed vendor of Wild Bill's co-whoopin' sticks. They are just a length of exhaust with a catalytic converter still attached. We've got plenty. We have an infinite supply. Don't ask where we get them. I'm third Dan Squash Belt Robert Brockway.
And I'm a Willie and a Trapper. I'm Sean Baby.
And I am extremely famous author Jason Pargin. My goal in life is, before we finish this rewatch of all 9 seasons of the Bigfoot hunting reality show Mountain Monsters, that I become too famous to be on this show. There has to be a point where if I win like awards where my agent or whoever will call me and say, well, now you're not going to be on that, you're not going to do that Bigfoot thing. Because I'm also assuming that this show, we're recording a lot of these in advance, I'm assuming that this show is a phenomenon by this point.
Right.
Yes, we have made it a phenomenon. You are far too famous for this, and I that's not necessarily that impressive. We are talking, of course, about the show Mountain Monsters, the Hillbilly X-Files cryptid hunting reality show. If you're just joining us, don't do that. Start with episode 1. We're watching through the whole thing. It's all worthwhile. Before we get into today's episode, let's do some plugs. Jason.
Yes, I am a New York Times bestselling novelist. I've won awards for my books. I just won, but the new one is coming out in October of 2023. If you're listening to this in the future, it's already out. The book is called Zoe is Too Drunk for This Dystopia. It is a sci-fi novel starring Zoe Ash. It is the 3rd novel in the series, available for pre-order in all possible formats, or if you're listening to this after October of 2023, it's available for post-order.
All right, Sean.
Well, I have the Pulitzer Prize for Dong, and I write at 1-900hotdog.com. It's a comedy website with jokes and hilarity, with my dear friend Robert Brockway and an all-star cast of writers. Yeah, go to it.
I'm an award-winning dipshit too. I have a Webby somewhere. I have a Webby I'm using to store a bunch of old pens that don't have ink anymore. I feel like maybe that's metaphorically appropriate. I don't know. I would like to plug our podcast, Dog Zone 9000, 2 G's, 2 Z's, 3 zeros, that me and Sean Baby do every single week. We find cursed media from another reality, and we make a ton of jokes about it and have a bunch of fun. If you need a positive thing with no stakes, that's it. Go listen to the Dog Zone 9000.
And already there's some people out there complaining, well, if you wanted people to listen to the show, why didn't you call it something like Cursed Media or something like that explains what the show is about? That's not...
That's idea.
Fuck.
God damn it.
The operation doesn't have like a business manager to strategize all those things.
Oh, jeez. I just realized 1-900-HOT-DOG doesn't even have enough, characters to be a phone number. Wow.
That's supposed to be a phone number? I thought it was an address. I've been telling people to send things there.
Yeah, that's where I get my paychecks.
The theme song.
Oh, no wonder.
The theme song to the Dog Zone is a reference, it's a cover of a song that they've never explained, and no one listening even realizes it because it's so arcane.
And now you're ruining it. You're telling everybody our secrets.
People discover it sometimes and are amazed that we bothered.
That's kind of my goal. Is like, I want you to be amazed that we bothered. Like, huh?
I guess.
Yeah.
And you spent how long doing that?
I guess the point I'm making, if you feel like the suits ruin entertainment, that it becomes corporate, there are no suits involved in this operation, and even tangentially.
No, we don't have any ads, no ad reads. Who would have us? Who would dare? Just good times about whatever the hell we feel like talking about. What sounds like fun. Like our last one, as of the time this is up, was about Troom Self-Defense, which is an insane Ukrainian children's network on YouTube that something went tragically wrong with their algorithm, and they decided to make life-saving tips for young women that will certainly get them abducted and murdered, and it's all done in an just completely mad child narrator voice with bright colors and very, very, very dramatic swings and stakes between tips. It is completely mad. You will not find any crazier listening than what we just did this week. Well, aside from what we're about to do right now. Mountain Monsters is led by a cast of Trapper. He's the leader. Huckleberry is Bigfoot Security. Not diminishing him. That's his actual... It's on his name tag.
He has never, ever acted in that capacity once.
Well, it's following a theme. So Trapper is not a trapper. Huckleberry is not security. Buck is it's episode 6 now, so Buck is no longer the rookie. He wants to be a caller. He's not a husky ninja. Jeff is not a hillbilly research scientist, but that's what it says on his... I mean, Willie, you know what? Willie might actually be a trapper. There's no measure of quality attached to what Willie does, but he does build traps. And Wild Bill, they say he's a tracker. There are certain things I'm sure he can track down very well. We're watching Mountain Monsters Season 1, Episode 6, Lizard Demon of Wood County. And fucking goddamn, after Mothman, they just get better every episode.
This is my favorite episode we watched so far. But have we got the first episode where they're using a made-up monster? If I Google Lizard Demon of Wood County, my only results are people talking about this episode of Mountain Monsters. So I do hear like vague other creatures that are the lizard man or the lizard or whatever, but the specific lizard demon that they're referencing, I feel like so it's a whole new magical experience, because as we learned in the previous episode, the Mothman episode, please go listen to that if you haven't yet. They're not beholden to the actual established lore of these cryptids. They are not above just taking wild swings at new lore on the fly. That when they get to make up a creature from scratch, it's really something.
Mothman did 9/11. Tell everyone, the truth will not be suppressed.
It only took them 5 episodes before they're like, we got to start making these things up.
And the first thing they made up was Mothman did 9/11. God, they're the best storytellers. No, Jason's completely right. Lizard Demon is not based on any specific folklore. There are lizard men in stories around the world, but in this region, in the way that they describe, nope, they're pulling that out of nowhere. Somewhere in Kentucky, there's supposedly a 15-foot monitor lizard, which I love. Okay. It's like a Kentucky dragon, apparently. But no Lizard Demon anywhere. They're free to just run wild with the lore on this one. Now, they start this off as with every episode with Trapper driving them in a pickup truck, all crammed comically into his pickup truck to get to a destination. You won't believe this, only 20 minutes drive from their house.
Real lucky.
It's so lucky that this can all be done on such an easy day trip.
If I'm not mistaken, they always say, "Oh, we're lucky to finally have one in our own backyard." Yep. Like they always kind of talk about, like, "Boy, oh boy, it's good to." Normally, we're jet setting across to the jungles of
locales.
Argentina.
Remember last week when we were in the Vatican City killing monsters in the Pope's wine cellar? but there's a nice break to just walk into the woods.
Next one's on the International Space Station.
God, I would love that.
Fucking, I would give them anything if we can have that budget.
Boys, it's like we're
I
going
would
to
not
space.
even care. If it just opened with them in space, I would not even care. Don't explain how they got there. I'm buying it.
Here's the Mars Wolf King, and he's been driving all the Mars farmers crazy, stealing their piglets. They're Mars piglets. Jeff starts off by saying, well, the lizard demon, which is what we're hunting, lizard demons have been making their lizard demons, plural, have been making their way up the rivers. We've been finding cattle and animals absolutely mutilated, torn up. The stories say they got gills and some kind of triple eyelid eyes that do glow in the dark, and
Of course.
he can hold his breath quite some time underwater.
That's my quote. That's my quote of the episode. He has gills, and in addition to having gills, he can stay underwater because he can hold his breath. So what do the gills do?
It seems impossible to not know what gills do, like, just as a second grader, to have an understanding of fish. Much less like a country person who, like, probably enjoys fishing, right? Like, has heard of it, at least.
Yeah, you get a hook in a gill. You gotta know. There's a lot to unpack there. I love that they have some kind of triple eyelid eyes, not specified which kind, as though there's
Right.
there's plenty. I love the way he emphasizes that do glow in the dark.
Again,
Like somebody said no before the camera started running. Like, we're not doing that. It's dumb.
the triple eyelid thing assumes that someone has not only seen it but has dissected one. Like, how would you know
Right.
that information unless you had one in captivity and analyzed its anatomy? That's not something you observe from across a field at night.
Saw him blink at me 3 times, and then he winked once. He's got 4 eyelids. And then he's got gills so he can breathe underwater, but he can also hold his breath just as a flex. Just to win tricks win beers at parties.
Now, I assume that the listeners have a question here because they are saying that they found deer and cattle mutilated. And there's the listeners saying, well, how would they assume that was a lizard demon that mutilated? Like the woods are full of creatures that mutilate animals. That's just how nature works. That's a great question. And because this is an entirely fictional cryptid that they just made up on the fly, they could have invented any evidence, like that there's slime left behind or something. They could have said anything. No.
Nope.
They didn't even invent their own, like, here's how we narrowed it down to this was a lizard demon attack.
They needed that time to specify that he's got gills and can hold his breath underwater. we needed to slip that in. Now, we do see our first CGI of the monster, and it's kind of, it's like a creature from the Black Lagoon. It's like a Gorn, basic Gorn.
It's a Gorn, yeah.
But them thighs, man, thick cryptid thigh check. Let's do it.
They're there.
They are
Check.
juicy. Looks like he gets chafed thighs from running through my mind all day. You know what I'm saying.
They are lusciously erotic thighs. Every time a creature on this show has thighs, they are jacked.
They are beefy. They're Xenia on a top, like just kill a man by making love to him. Trapper says, I'll tell you what I know about the lizard demon. He's 7.5 feet tall, 400 pounds. He has 3 toes, and the center toes are a lot longer by a couple of inches, which all sounds reasonable, and then fucking Jeff decides to just throw a wrench in the whole thing. He immediately adds, I heard he's been chasing down cars.
Again, this is all just Shaquille O'Neal.
I hear he's been chasing down cars, just ripped the side out of it. Again, a nice bit of improv. Completely steps all over anything anyone else has said. Again, they did not discuss this in advance because that is something that there would be photographic evidence of. And they do not present photographic evidence of a car that has been attacked by a lizard demon where it could only have been attacked by, like, where claws have been ripped out of the side of the car.
Now, what they do present is a picture of a Ford Taurus that has been in a fender bender. As though the lizard demon ran a red light and took off without leaving his insurance information.
Buck is the voice of reason here, because after Jeff says, yeah, he's been chasing cars, Buck says, You're getting a little crazy, Jeff.
He says,
I think that he thought they were going to cut that, but they just left it in. Like, he understands, like, buddy, come on, you fucking out of control.
Buck says,
Chasing cars.
Buck asks him, like a dog chasing cars or like a lizard demon chasing cars? And Jeff doubles down and says, lizard demon is chasing cars. I'm adding this.
Like,
You got to add a thing last time. I'm adding this. And Buck just goes, ooh, Jeff getting crazy.
all right.
Buck gets saucy on it.
Again, did not know that was going to be left in the episode.
There's no way they can know. Because he says this shit about cars. I'm glad everybody please note that this is in the setup of the episode where we're explaining all of the things that will become important. Lizard Demon will chase down your car. And you might be assuming later in like, oh, he's going to have like, they're going to pile into Trapper's truck. And then he's going to chase him down. No, it's never mentioned again. Jeff fucked up. He fucked up this whole
Jeff,
scene.
like, I feel like he knows what he's done. He's like, just fucking sick with power now. He's just like, I can do anything. So he starts sharing a story about like the lizard demon getting cornered in a barn and then like somehow leaping out through a tiny hole. Like, he's just saying shit, just like, challenge me. I dare anyone to say I'm lying.
Now, they do let this one stick, but we'll get to that. Trapper says, now the key to finding lizard demons, which is a great sentence, like as though there are a lot of things you can do that aren't right to find a lizard demon, but we know the way, is to find his travel route to the Ohio River. And now this is a dangerous hunt because we have never hunted a water creature.
Mm-hmm. It's the first water-based creature.
And I don't know if I should say this every episode. Maybe I should just let it be known that this is always going to be a thing. But they're going to mention that the first sightings of this thing go back 120 years and imply that it's a single immortal creature. And then, as you mentioned, Robert, in the very next sentence, they will start referring to them in plural as if that's just a type of creature you see around here, as if it's a species. So, again, when it comes time to trap them, they always land on there's just one, or they've established there's a pack of, like 5 or whatever. But in the lead up, when they're interviewing people, they always just flip back and forth. So, like, say a lizardemus or a wampus beast.
Buck is especially worried about the lizard demon. He says, I'm especially worried about the water part. We can't see in the water, can't breathe in the water. He does all of the above. This is a whole new twist. Everything is different.
The other thing that is, again, in the very first episode in the pilot, they claimed that they had been working as a monster hunting team for, I think, 7 years before the show started. And then they quickly forgot about that. Like, as of that episode, they completely forgot to reference all their infinite past experience with hunting, And so they're constantly saying things like, well, this is our first blank. Like last episode, the Mothman, they said, well, it's our first supernatural creature. It's like, well, you've hunted like 2,000 creatures at this point. Like, half of them are supernatural, aren't they? And here, same thing. It's like, well, it's our first water creature. It's like, well, yeah, it's the first water creature of the 6 episodes you've done. Did you forget that you were supposed to have been an expert monster hunting team? Because otherwise, if they admit that first episode was their first hunt they'd ever done, then they're just a bunch of idiots in the woods. The whole point of saying that was to establish that they are trained and experienced experts, and they just totally forgot to. They keep forgetting to reinforce that.
Yeah. Well, they do say the key to catching a lizard demon is like finding his trail to the largest river. So, I mean, I don't, but I guess that's not their experience. They like know a guy who hunts lizard demons. I don't know.
Yeah, they know they have expertise, but it's never happened before. There's got to be some sort of hillbilly monster hunting clubhouse. Like I like to imagine it. This is a reference just for me and like 4 nerds. Like Supernatural, where there are teams, elite teams, just roving the United States, and they all sometimes meet up and share lore together. So that's how they know all of this, of course.
I mean, if you had some kind of a budget, you would actually just in Jeff's house, and you're not going to see any of these people's houses, but in Jeff's house, you'd have like a little library of monster books on a shelf, and implying that he spends all of his spare time. Yeah, he's a researcher, right? That he spends. So if there's some book he's read that in. Or he would even, God, if you really had a budget, you would even have like the page out of the book with the little drawing, like in Buffy, where it's like the little, it's like, well, they say, that he travels up the river, and then he escapes into these shallow ponds. If you can just find his path from the river to the pond, boom. But anyway, they always just reference this knowledge and never explain where it comes from.
Every once in a while, Jeff does say I read on the internet, which is great. You're just like on Reddit somewhere. You're reading the Mountain Monsters Reddit. I mean, like, I read on the internet. So it's a new twist. Everything is different. So they're going to meet a white man in a field outside his house. We're going to meet the exact same format the show will always take. This is J-Bob. He's a hunter. He's dressed in head-to-toe camo baseball cap, camo jacket, camo waders, camo shorts, but there's a little gap between his gaiters and his shorts, like a naughty little British boy that I find is completely adorable.
And if we've not established this already, it's a running trope of this show that they're never allowed in the witnesses' homes. they never have these conversations like on their patio or around their kitchen table or some like establishing how these people live and their families and no. It's always like half the time they will just pull up and the guy's just standing on the side of the highway. In this case, J-Bob is standing in, it looks like an open, like a carport type structure, but there's like a sofa and stuff in there, implying that that's where he lives.
I believe the implication is that's how everybody lives in this area. Everybody's semi-homeless. He's seen him. He says, I was out front here one day, and I tell you what, this lizard man came right down here and jumped in that pond. So it's a repeat of the Ohio Grassman just running and cannonballing into a pond and having fun and not hurting anybody. And Trapper says, well, what did he look like? And J-Bob says, he's about 7 foot tall, dark green. That's it. Trapper nods sagely and says, well, that sounds like him.
And he goes, his head was like a lizard, not a gator.
They establish in the rendering that he has a tail, right? Like he has a thick tail. That would be a key distinguishing feature between did you see a guy in coveralls or did you see a lizard demon that has a tail?
Did you see a lizard demon or a Hulk? Is it a lizard demon? It's got to be one of the two. And which Hulk?
The Wood County Hulk.
I love that his description is 7 foot tall, dark green, silence. And Trapper is just like, yep, that's him.
Yeah.
Got him.
Sounds a lot like
And then later he clarifies, well, hold on. His head was like a lizard.
There you go.
It was like a lizard.
Still sounds like Shaquille O'Neal.
All of these are Shaquille O'Neal just in various Halloween costumes like Scooby-Doo. Just out there trying to drive down property costs for his investment property.
Shaquille O'Neal real estate scheme.
He's gonna come out with his head on one of those little placards, and he's gonna get his real estate license and start selling flipping all these properties. So J-Bob, he set himself up a trail cam, and he got a photo he wants him to check out. And Buck says in a brief testimonial, now, I've heard of things like this before, a half lizard, half man, down in the south, but not out here.
They just showed a newspaper article of the local lizard man. That the whole episode, all they've been talking about is the local lizard men.
Buck is adding different improv. Anyway, J-Bob has his picture. It's kind of a featureless blob, kind of a guy in like an old sweater.
I'm so pissed off at this picture. It could have been a tractor. It is just nothing. It's just
nothing. But it's the most I've ever seen them celebrate anything. One of them says, oh my God, and the other was clear as day. And somebody else says, couldn't ask for better than that. I think you could.
Yeah.
I think you don't deserve a lot in your life based on your life choices, but I think you can ask for better than this.
It looks like someone turned on panoramic view and dropped the camera. It's just a smear of kind of white on black.
And it's a world in which everyone has like a 4K full color video camera, 60 frames a second video camera in their pocket at all times. And this incredibly grainy photo, I get it, this is supposed to be a trail cam, but even if your trail cam that you bought off Amazon gave you this photo, you would return it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, this does me no good. It's just a blur. It's like a Nintendo DS camera or whatever.
It's the last time I fucking buy a trail cam from Mihong Haksu.
But they like, look at, you can see the rib structure here, and they just like grab a blob that sort of looks like it could be a torso of something. And, oh, here's the gills. It's just, they are circling blobs on blobs.
But it's the clearest evidence they've ever seen. It's enough
pissed off at it.
to skip way ahead of their normal procedure and jump right into the first night investigation. That's all we're going to do for research. Jeff and Trapper are going to take the forest golf cart. The rest of them are on foot looking for small details, so it's clear who the favorite is, Jeff and Trapper. Trapper says, "For God's sake, if you see him, don't get close to him." And Buck says, "If that close, I'm going to shoot him."
It's just sheepishly.
Now, after everything we discussed in the previous episode about how they needed to justify their hunts, here Trapper says, "Let's go find the son of a bitch." And the only thing that the witness saw the lizard demon do, because I realize they're calling it a demon, but the only thing they saw it do was come out of the river and then go frolicking in his pond. Not bothering anyone. Like, to our knowledge, this thing is not even... They could have
said, like, all the fish in the pond were dead after he touched the water, or something.
They could have said anything. Say that he had a son. He has been eaten.
He ate my son.
He ate my boy.
He could say anything.
His name was Bob J, and he was going to be better than me. He was for once going to be better.
Once again, they're not treating it like this is pest control or we need to keep it away from people's cattle. It's personal. We got to get this son of a bitch. It is sentient. It is evil. It for some reason, we have to get revenge on it for existing.
They completely forgot to do that this
episode. They try to shoehorn it in a little bit, but it's very last minute. It's
amazing how they try to do it later. We'll get to it.
So Huckleberry and Buck are just bitterly complaining that they have to walk through the swamp about how they don't get to ride in the golf cart. And Bucks is trying to play something off here. He says, "It's probably because we're the only ones big enough to wrestle him." And Huckleberry looks at him and says, "Where I've come from, it's called being bait, Buck." And Buck has to say, "Yeah, being bait." I was going to do a tough guy thing for us. This Buck is really trying to step out of his role in the improv, and they're all just like, "No, you're where you need to be." They immediately find the track, of course. They've been out here must have been 7 minutes their time, so it's time to find the monster. Huckleberry steps next to it again, and they go, "Oh my god," like comparing his foot to that, because Huckleberry is the yardstick by which they measure the unknown world. And you know what? I can't fault him for it. He should not be, and it's fine.
It's bigger than a huckleberry. That means it's quite a danger and needs to be killed. I like that they have the thermal, and they're trying to like find him on the thermal. And at first I was like, well, this should be easy. He's going to have a tail. They won't be able to like fake it with a human. But then it occurred to me, oh, he's a reptile. He's not going to show up on thermal. And I was like, oh, I can't wait for them to reveal that. I can't wait for these guys to figure that out. And they never do. The whole episode. I'm not setting something up. It never occurs to them that a reptile will not show up on the thermal camera.
He's also like, he's got gills. So he's also a water creature.
Also fish, yeah.
and on top of everything has just come from a river. So they immediately find him in the golf cart. Jeff says, "Hard to miss him on thermal. That tail will stick out like a big old sore thumb." So, of course, we will not be seeing him on thermal this episode. Right. Not for the reasons Sean said, but because Jeff just fucked up the special effects department. He threw that out. And so Trapper, based on nothing, they're just kind of standing around, and Trapper turns and says, "Well, shit, Jeff, this is spooky." Just like the innocence of that. Like, I picture them filming this, and he and Jeff have been out there for like 10 minutes not really talking, and they're like, "Well, shit, Jeff, this is spooky."
They're never quite straight on how much danger they're in. They're like, I guess here's the plan. We wander around, and if he gets close, we shoot him. Yeah, and then sometimes it's just like, boy, oh boy, I'm kind of spooked by the impending spookiness. Like, no, he can tear a car apart.
No, we're ignoring that. Fuck you, Jeff. Shut up.
He chases cars on the highway. Your guys' top speed is 1.5 miles per hour. Maximum.
I do love the unspoken subplot of them trying to like write checks that the effects crew can't cash.
Right.
And if they didn't have just kept upping the stakes on that, it's like now sometimes it goes soaring through the air with a orange streak behind it, like it's shooting fire from its rear end.
I think what we're seeing, and we saw it in this episode, I think Buck is the special effects department, and I think that's why when Jeff was like, he hunts cars down, Buck is like, fuck you, Jeff. Man, no he doesn't. He does not do that, in fact.
Google image search, like, car accident, just threw a picture up.
I heard he can't.
I
heard he can't affect the material realm at all. He's an ethereal being, can't even make footprints.
I heard he doesn't show up on camera. You asshole. How about that? How about I heard that?
I heard he could do Adobe After Effects preset number 4.
Ain't that right, Jeff? I heard you can do that, Jeff. No? Then maybe he doesn't do that. So Jeff doesn't have anything on it. He's at the woods and goes, hear that? And Huckleberry sees a cave in the rock and is immediately like, well, I'm going to go in this cave.
We cut to commercial.
For no good reason. We almost cut to commercial. A bunch of gravel falls off the cliff.
Oh, right.
I love this
and Buck says, oh, Huck, get out of there. Like Huck is being fucking torn to pieces. Just absolutely. He's watching his best friend get flayed by a fish man. Cut to commercial. We cut back, and they're both pointing their shotguns above, and the camera crew, those goddamn sons of bitches, are so unprofessional, you won't believe it. They're filming Buck and Huckleberry instead of the creature. Because the creature, as Buck says, is right now, in this moment, he's 5 feet away and coming for my face.
Now, I want to set this up because they can almost like touch each other, Buck and Huckleberry. Huckleberry's just like a little bit to the left with his headlamp. He's like looking into a cave, and he's like, oh, this cave looks like there's a dead end back here. And now Buck is waiting for the cue for the guy up on the hill to toss a few rocks down. And so Buck says, oh, it does a dead ends? Like he's like, he can't like fucking make the words make sense. Cause like the cue is wrong. Anyway, I really like this, how insane the conversation got. Well, he's trying to fill time waiting for the gravel. And then of course, some very large rocks fall down. Suspiciously like landscaping gravel.
And it's 5 feet away as he's saying this and coming for his face. So, of course, Huckleberry stops to give a testimonial. And now, you might be thinking, as we've gone along, that, oh, these are testimonials they do after the fact, and they're talking about how they felt in that moment. They specifically say all of this in present tense, as in, we're doing this, we're doing that. But also, Huckleberry is in there talking like, yeah, so I was going into that cave, and then here's Buck fighting with the thing in the background. He hears another noise, like, oh shit, and he runs off to go help again.
The lizard demon interrupted the recap. I think that's the first time they've ever done that.
In the middle of the recap, he stopped to give the testimonial while Buck was still being attacked. He was like, oh, I gotta go. So that's canon now that all of these testimonials happen in live time.
Also, when Buck and Huckleberry are operating as a unit like that, you should refer to them as Buckleberry.
Will do.
It's certainly how I'm going to ship them. So Buck hops on the radio and it's like, in sheer panic, it's still here. Oh, I got Trapper. It's still here. Like he's being currently mauled. So Jeff and Trapper haul ass in their golf carts. We're still like tight and close up on Buckleberry as they're looking right off camera, presumably at the lizard demon just like snapping its teeth alien style inches from their face, but we can't see it. Trapper immediately gets back in. All right, it's over. No, he's gone.
I was so confused here because they're like, he's right here. They're like, we got him right here. And then the other guys show up, but they're like already doing the act like, oh man, we missed him. And then the people who were like, he was just right here. They're like, yeah, boy, he's gone. Almost had him.
That's too bad.
Yeah. Like,
no, we want to run with this, right? We could go. Nope. I'm tired is what the thing is. Yeah. And so he got away is what happened.
He must not.
However, that does play into the lore because Trapper immediately says like, even while they're still trying to convince him, like, no, he's right here, we can get him. Trapper says, what we're gonna have to do is trap him in the water. And then you see Buck shift gears, and Buck says, yeah, because he's too quick on land. He's too quick on land. Which is completely fucking backwards. Like immediately you recognize, wait, hold on. No, he's a water creature who loves swimming, so he's going to be faster than you in the water.
You would think.
But they had to like shift gears to explain why this scene ended with nothing all of a sudden. We go to Wild Bill and Willie's Crackhead Trap Shack. Luckily, Willie has a huge old smokestack,
right?
Exactly lizard demon shaped. So that
very handy.
They have had someone build this for him, and this is a real. This episode had a little bit of a budget because this is a device that they had someone, a third party, make. Because you see him there, like the guy who helps him load it. That's the guy who built this trap. Like it is a full on sliding door, fully metal, weighs hundreds of pounds. It's not an old smokestack he found in a junkyard. Like
it's on wheels. He put an axle and wheels on it. It can like steer a little bit and
watching
roll.
it, I was trying to think
this is a bear trap.
You think it's an existing bear trap? Okay.
Yeah.
I think they even say like something like that. They say like they reference how it could be a bear trap, but they don't know that Willie off camera has been like, no, I found a huge smokestack.
Yeah.
And I made this. So the man who made it just off screen is another Mark, and you think they'd learn. Oh no, sorry, Mark isn't the one that made this. They find a witness who's another Mark.
Yeah,
and he's 2 minutes away. He's 2 minutes away from J Bob, their last witness. And Mark is just kind of standing on the road this time. As Jason said, sometimes they just mill about by the side of the road. But Mark opens up by saying, "I can't believe you found me. Mark, you were in the road."
Right, and they were like, "Oh no, we're from the country, so we can find people standing by a road." I didn't get the logic here, but I liked it.
But also they would have hit him if they didn't stop, so...
Right.
I can't believe you found me. So Trapper asks him what the lizard man looks like. Mark very nervously says, big, scaly looking, kind of, like humanoid lizard type of thing.
Yeah, like
Mark is never...
He said he's kind of a humanoid lizard type of thing. I don't know how to describe it.
He's never done this before, and is full-blown panic being put on the spot like this. But it's now time for the most dangerous part of any episode, walking slightly off-road in gentle terrain. Seriously, it looks...
Mark goes to a second location with these men. He should
be
dead.
Always unwise.
Yeah. I liked how his story changed. Like, because at first, like, the lizard, like, just kind of ran down to the water, but then they get down to the area, and suddenly he's, like, jumping from that rock to that rock to that. Like, once he sees the terrain, he's like, okay, let me adjust my story to this cool terrain and, like, paint a picture for you.
And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful little terrain. It's a peaceful little creek with a waterfall and, like, some hills, and they can't stop talking about how dangerous it is.
It is. They found a great location, which, to be clear, lots of Appalachia looks like this. It is gorgeous country. It's, whatever else's reputation. It's beautiful. They found this is like scenic, a place people would intentionally hike to just to see it. And then, of course, they're treating it like they're in the thickest, most dangerous jungle.
Yeah. They're in the Badlands. And in fact, Trapper says, this is so remote. How often is people down here, you think? And Mark completely panics and says, I don't think anyone has ever been down here.
We just invented coming here for the first time.
Wait, didn't you just see it? So you were here, certainly. And also the road's right here, which is where
it's like a literal waterfall here. Like, I'm pretty sure there's people hiking there, like now, like right now.
There's probably a treasure behind that waterfall, being guarded by a second monster.
Once again, we have found uncharted territory just off the Ohio River. So they take off for another sighting, this time 15 miles away, to meet maybe my new favorite character in Mountain Monsters.
Bob.
This is Bob. Bob is an auctioneer. And he's our first less than completely offensive hillbilly stereotype. He lives in kind of a nice house by the river. It's like an actual... It's not a garage with a sofa in it. It's not a hole he dug with his hands.
This is his vacation cabin.
This is his vacation cabin. They, of course, are not invited in.
I want to bring up 2 points. One, obviously people who live in rural areas or who like to hunt and fish can have modern jobs. That prior to now, you have not seen them interview like an attorney who saw Bigfoot while he was hunting. You've not seen them interview a dentist. It's always farmer, outdoorsman, professional, like that one guy who said he ate possum or groundhog or whatever. So the job of auctioneer is like the most city slicker job they've allowed one of their witnesses to have. And so up till now, again, we're on episode 6. We've established that the Mountain Monsters team is never allowed inside people's homes. So they pull up to this guy's very nice vacation home, and he is like running out of the front door to meet them as if his wife was like, "You get out there. They're coming up the driveway."
Yeah, everybody knows if you fight the Mountain Monsters crew and like your carpet's ruined.
Yep.
Them huckleberry feet touch it, you gotta burn it. You'll get huck bugs all through that. Bob.
He says that the creature had a muscular body, 7 foot tall, dark green man.
First let's introduce Bob properly.
Okay, sure.
Bob is okay, this is very delicate. I don't want to be offensive here. People from all walks of life can do all sorts of things. I just think it was very bold of the casting department to say that Bob was an auctioneer when he has a pretty significant speech impediment, and he often struggles to find the right words for anything. Absolutely every sentence is just
I don't think he has teeth, and I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean like this. He doesn't have teeth.
So the most mental thing you could imagine for a made-up job for this guy is auctioneer.
Right.
Like it's the last thing you would say. It might be their little joke. Anyway, Bob saw the lizard demon, and he says he knew it wasn't a deer because it was standing up. And dark green.
And dark green.
He adds.
And had
that's the only way you could tell it from a deer.
Had the
and then he goes on
body.
to say, that's the only way you could tell. Quote is, and it had the features. Muscular body.
Now,
and he just kind of trails off.
I guess I just have to ask, in their rendering, it has a tail. Have they ever verbally said that it has a tail?
Jeff did.
Yeah.
He tried to make it a thing when they were on the cart, and they fucking shut him down.
Right. He said it'd show up on the thermal. So, and you just, the type of creature it is, they're assuming it's got like a part salamander build or whatever.
They do mention the tail later, too.
Fascinating that none of the witnesses, it's always just big, tall, like could so easily just be a big, tall man in green clothes. Because again, if you saw him at a distance, you wouldn't notice their scales. It could just easily be, a wetsuit.
It's just
Buck
one of the Charlotte Hornets.
Fucking Shaq wants that house. It's a nice house. It's a nice house. You could flip it. You could do a little bit of interior redecorate, just some staging, honestly. It's got good bones. Bob says he's not an outdoors guy. So this is what the show thinks a city slicker is. Now, it's insane that we have to, kind of... what the show thinks we think hillbillies are, or what we've seen so far. And now it's what the show thinks hillbillies think city slickers are. It's everything's filtered through these, 2 levels of abstract, where you're like, what the fuck are you doing? So this is your first city slicker. And he uses it as a qualification and basically says, well, now I'm not an outdoors guy, so, are lizard demons normal?
Right. I'll defer to you.
He basically phrases it.
Yeah. Because when they say lizard man, he kind of gets stunned by that, which might just be very good acting.
What he actually says is, I don't know what I'm looking at here, and what I'd like is for you guys to help out. And Jeff very sternly says, well, I'll tell you what you're looking at here. It's a lizard demon.
No, you said it wrong.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'll tell you what the hell you're looking at. It's the lizard demon. That is such a
fucking
such a beautiful
slicker.
way to phrase it.
Yep.
And
you got these lizard demons. They're lizard demons.
They call him a concrete
Shaq's
person.
not gonna like that.
You're calling him a city slicker, but the term they use is concrete person.
Right. Trapper says, Bob's not country. Back in the hill. This is his phrasing. Back in the hill, us hill people, we'd call him a concrete person.
Never heard that phrase before
in my life.
Also never heard him say that we live in a hill
in
like
my
hobbits.
life. I have lived near this region all of my life. Never heard the term concrete person. Ever.
He's a city dweller, so Bob has no idea what he's dealing with here. And then we can visually tell because Bob is wearing the city slicker outfit, which is a shirt and jeans instead of...
he's got his flannel tucked into his belt. But he's
like a fancy
he
man.
is a toothless hillbilly by any standards. Like
He's
But
got
yes,
the
as
big,
country a man as you'll ever
more than
see.
most.
the fancy big city job of auctioneer.
This guy
absolutely. See what I
absolutely
mean? That's what they think.
stores billiard
hillbillies
balls in his
think.
toothless mouth is what this guy does for a living.
He's maybe the biggest hillbilly they've found, and they dress. Again, maybe this is all a joke that they are aware of. But the implication with like Trapper and Jeff and the way they're talking to him, the implication is that like if you lived out here, you'd obviously be like, oh shit, it's a lizard demon. I have to put down some diatomaceous earth. I have to spray peppermint oil to keep him away. But no, because he's a city slicker, he's gonna go up and like try to feed it bread or something and get himself killed. But they just talked to two other hillfolk who were like, "What the fuck was that? I never saw anything like that."
Yesterday, they talked to a guy who like never heard of the Mothman. I mean, like it has nothing to do with where you're from. This dumbass doesn't know what a lizard demon is. From the city, like drives a car with wheels
instead of feet, which is what we do. Bob emphasizes how incredibly fast the lizard demon is in water. So he's just fucked the entire episode. Like Trapper's whole thing was how slow he's going to be slower in water, and now like the whole trap they built, everything is thrown right out the window, but they don't realize it. Smirkingly, Trapper says very condescendingly, "Bobby, I doubt he owns a gun. He's in a dangerous situation here, and he don't really know it. It's called the lizard demon. I think he got it.
I think he gets it. Like, you assholes have ever shot a lizard demon."
They leave with the heavy implication that Bob is never seen alive again.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, they like say goodbye to him for one last time.
Trapper is going to do his CSI bit, where he goes down to the riverbank next to Bob's house and sees where there's like a little bit of mud where the grass is washed away, and determines that this is the lizard demon's slide area.
Yeah,
implying that when it enters the water, I guess it gets down and just slides on its belly into the water.
It's like a penguin. It's got a little penguin DNA. That's where it gets the gills.
And from this, he concludes, like overtly, that it is going to kill Bob soon.
That it's going. He explicitly says it's going to kill Bob. So when they leave and say goodbye to him, it's like this poor son of a bitch, Bob. It's going to tear him apart.
This is the stakes for the episode. Like, it is getting closer and closer, not to people, but specifically to Bob's house, and will murder Bob if they don't stop it.
So they're kind of waffling. Like, maybe we let nature take its course. Teach that city slicker. Flip that house of his. I know a buyer. It's a real big guy. So Willie unwisely brings a third mark into the equation, and this is the guy who built the trap.
Yeah.
And they need his help getting it into the water. Now they need to wait, though. They need to wait for Wild Bill and his rambunctious energy to show up to, wrestle it into the water with them. They suspiciously don't let him drive the forklift. He's right out of there. So he rides the tube into the lake. He mounts it like Dr. Strangelove and just rides it out there. And then he crawls into the tube, pulls the trap shut, and screams, "I can't get out, help me!" As though that will be the lizard demon begging for help.
There's a thing about this that I appreciated where before they shut the trap shut, he covers his ears, which is, I think, shows a very canny foresight. Like, this is not the first time Wild Bill has climbed into and set off a bear trap. He knows that's going to be noisy when that claps shut.
He's always in a man trap. Sometimes just to get a good night's sleep. Just to have a dry place to sleep. Oh, is that a man trap? All right.
And at some point says, "Hope that done hold her till the old cows come home." Now
everything's got to be a country saying with him.
How they place this lizard demon trap is they drive it to the end of a boat launch ramp and leave it at the end of a boat launch ramp.
They clearly wanted to submerge it, and it just it's kind of like left it poking up out of the water.
It's like in 2 feet maybe of water and just kind of stops, and then it's obviously going to be incredibly hard to move that around.
It's a criminal level of pollution. Like, you're not allowed to dump a smokestack-sized trap in the river.
Also, now I fear that our listeners are saying, "Well, now hold on, this thing will imprison the lizard demon, but and then what? What do they intend to do?"
And then what?
And you may
Yeah.
have realized that in the previous episode, the Mothman episode, they also never established what they were going to do with the Mothman. And again, because they do this in every episode, maybe I need to stop explaining it, because they never, ever bring with them tranquilizers, restraints, a mobile cage that they could load it into to take it to a laboratory somewhere. They never have like experts waiting on it if they do catch it, whether alive or dead, so they can examine the corpse. The implication with every episode, and I guess from here on out, is that once it's in the cage and helpless, they will come down and riddle it with buckshot
They'll just have to
Gonna
decide who's
blast it
going to
to
put
hell.
it down.
until it's dead.
They're gonna give the final shot to Bob so that he can get the taste for blood.
Because they literally never
Take back your life,
establish
Bob.
any procedure for what they would do with the trapped animal, because they're obviously not going to eat it. They're not trophy hunters. Like, they never ever
They'll not eat
establish
it.
what they're going to do if they successfully catch it.
Because they know there's no chance in hell based on everything they've ever done. Wild Bill does not know that. Wild Bill sums it all up at the end of the scene and says, "This definitely will catch every critter that we've been after, and then some." So he thinks everything's going to team up and run in there.
It is so much better than their
Willie-
normal traps.
And now the rest of the crew has joined up, and so Willie finally says, "Well, there's only one thing left." Trapper says, "I don't look the look in his eyes when he said that." So you know it's going to be a bit.
Yeah.
And, Willie brings out a store chicken, like a store-bought whole chicken, and which you'd think it would be like a chicken carcass to sell, like, "Whoa, we're from the woods here."
No.
He bought a chicken from fucking Safeway, and
Wouldn't even unwrap it to make it seem like maybe they plucked it themselves. It's just still in the package.
he offers it to Buck with no further comment, like, "Here, this is your favorite gift." And then finally they start to explain they want Buck to swim out into the trap and bait the trap, which they could have done while it was on land, but fuck Buck. He thought he was out of the antics. He keeps trying to, like, graduate himself from the joke role, and I think the rest of them are like, no, we know what you are. Willie says, "Here's the chicken, young and tender, just like you, Buck," and I don't like that. I
Yeah.
don't like that very much.
Buck loved it, though. Buck cracked up.
And they actually cut to the cliffhanger commercial break over this. Like, will they send the rookie Buck into the freezing cold water?
And they do.
They do.
Trapper says, "Can you swim, Buck?" And Buck says, "Look at me, I'm buoyant. I don't have to swim, I just float," which is great that he's got that. He has on his lucky socks, which are hot pink. That's hilarious.
Was
of
this
course.
not like a wetsuit? I thought he might be wearing a wetsuit.
Well, I thought they were just supposed to be hot pink socks, but also maybe. He says he can swim. He jumps in there and immediately tries to prove them wrong. It's like clearly 2 feet of water, and he has a very difficult time. They didn't think this through, much less practice it, because by the time he gets to the trap, the water is actually cold, and he's just going,
He's really
I can't
having
get
a
my
rough
breath.
time.
Hold on. Like, he's really in trouble. And he dives into this tube, moaning the whole way, and they shove a dirty chicken through the grates at him. All of this has become disgusting, and, like, the bit has turned into torturous.
Here's the part that was fucked up, is that Wild Bill is on top of the trap. Like, he just kind of hopped onto it, and he reaches in with the chicken. So they could have done all of this by just having Wild Bill hop out there and set the trap.
Again,
So
if
for
they
him to-
didn't just do
yes.
it before they put it in the water, which would have been the
Right.
other option. But yeah, and even the way they do it, he has to basically do the work because Buck is slowly dying of hypothermia on the other side of the closed gate.
And when Buck does get back to the dock, I think he's maybe supposed to have something funny to say, because everybody kind of looks at him expectantly, but he doesn't have anything funny or cute to say. He just goes, huh.
He's very miserable.
He's very miserable, and Trapper puts a hand on him and says, "Buck, is your giblets froze up?" And Buck says, "All I can say, being this cold, we better get that lizard demon. That's right, now it's personal."
Yes.
He replied, "My giblets are in my throat."
Okay, so there was
Right,
there,
my
there's
giblets
like
are in my
a
throat.
quip.
Then
I'd say,
said that-
aside from the 70 or 80 times they dropped Wild Bill out of a tree, this was the most dangerous stunt they've done. Because if he would have drowned out there, which was very, very possible, no one could have rescued him. He was in a tube with one point of entry. like deep
He
into
was
the
in a
water.
trap.
Yeah,
He was in a water
in
trap.
a trap.
He was in a buck trap. They set and baited a buck trap with a chicken, and he fell for it. He swam out there with his own bait.
You're exactly right.
So now everyone there will agree that from now on, their motivation to kill the lizard demon is to get revenge for
Yes.
almost freezing and drowning Buck.
He got
Yes.
cold. Buck
Literally-
blames the monster for being cold, not his dick friends.
Literally, one of them says, "We'll brand Buck's name on his ass." Like, this is personal.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Buck
Was-
repeats that. He says, after being in that trap in that water, I want to get this lizard demon. It's personal. They really want to sell that at this point. It's like, yeah, now they have
Yeah,
stakes.
If this was a crime worth killing a monster over, they could have simply not done it to their friend. Is my point.
So, Trapper, Wild Bill, and Willie are on Team A. They're flushing it from the river to the land, while Buck, Huckleberry, and Jeff on Team B flush it from the water. No, flush it from the land to the water. So right away, I think there's a problem with that plan.
Yeah. But Trapper's in a rowboat, and while Bill and Willie are just in hip waders, they find a rib cage in the river. So they're like, okay, he's here. He's
It's
tearing
that same freaking rib cage.
that same rib cage. And
No.
Wild Bill only has a knife, and he's really excited to fucking gut that goddamn lizard demon. But I guess my point is, if you were watching a horror movie, you would consider this to be the dumbest thing any character in any film has ever done. Like, if these guys got killed by the water monster while they were just, like, walking through the water noisily trying to find the water monster, you'd be like, no one would ever do this. The dumbest movie I've ever watched. Like, there's just no circumstance where the monster shows up and then they also live. Like, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. They can't see anything.
You would be ashamed to be the monster that did not get them from this. Not just didn't get trapped, but like, you didn't. They look so juicy. You didn't kill any
Not
of
just that, but they only had to remember like two things. They baited the trap. They
Right.
baited it, meaning you wait
They forgot
until
about that.
it gets hungry and then it comes into the trap, and that's you trap it. And then they, in the very next scene, talk about, okay, we've got to flush it out and force it this direction. It's like, well, it's not gonna, if it's in a panic running from you, which you already established that if you're in the water and it's in the water, it has its advantage because it's amphibious and you are not. But you're not going to flush it. Is your plan you're going to flush it toward this direction? It's going to be like, oh, food. I'm going to go stop for a snack.
They say that in the episode.
Yes.
Yeah, the episode slowly realizes it. At this point, Buck finally spots the flaw in the plan and says, we've seen what it can do on land, and it's a water-based creature, so it can only be twice as bad in water. He's lamenting, like, why did we do all of this in the water? Before we leave that little river scene, there is a beautiful, very Apocalypse Now-like moment where in this black and white night vision, Wild Bill is intensely leaning out over this water, and he's tracking across the surface of the water with the blade of his knife, and he is saying, "Come on out, Mr. Lizard Demon. I'm gonna cut you 3 ways, long, deep, and wide."
Yeah.
He's a fucking genuine maniac,
Yeah,
and I love him.
That's a Dennis Hopper
He
line.
in this
Apocalypse Now.
episode has the mannerisms of a man who is very intoxicated. But he has brought to this fight against the 150-year-old lizard demon not a gun, but a comical serrated knife from like a slasher movie, like a goofy knife.
Like a custom knife.
And someone asks him about it, and he, slurring badly, says, "Right here is my weapon. I'll get him by the head, and I'll get him back, make a small incision in him. You'll be able to have a blood trail." To which Huckleberry says, "You worry me sometimes, Bill." To which he replies, "If I don't worry you, there should be something wrong, Huckleberry."
I love that he's aware, like,
Yeah.
you should fear for my safety. Like, you're right. You should be afraid. I am going to hurt myself.
He's doing a
We know
bit, but
this.
he is a genuine maniac.
Yes, like, within the fiction of the show, he's still a maniac. Like, his friends are still like, oh, fuck, this is not okay.
And then we have a direct quote from Buck saying, "After getting into that trap and in that water, I really want to get this lizard demon. It's personal."
Yeah, you need it
It
so
trap-
is personal.
That you put in the water to catch it already. Now, I don't want to get political on this show. I feel like that captures a certain mindset
Yeah.
that you will find in certain people of a certain personality type, possibly in certain regions of the country, of I have done tremendous harm to myself and I'm out for revenge.
Yes.
And in that way, perhaps that only way, they actually have a connection to the heartland. They actually have a connection to these people in this mentality. Perhaps the only way. So they're hearing noises, everything's going down. Trapper spots a set of red eyes on the water. Nobody else does. They forget to play along with that. The fishman lizard demon runs up onto land for some reason, and then around them and back, kind of towards the other team. Jeff thinks he's got something on thermal, and we show that, only they've actually blurred the thermal camera because they don't even want to show you the blob that you can get on thermal.
It's too embarrassing.
I think because Jeff called out, like, we're going to see the tail on thermal, and they're like, they have
just didn't
a
know how to
Gorn
fix
costume, and are like, well, fuck,
I want to
Jeff.
point something
Let's
out.
just blur it.
That, like, so they're literally chasing him. He's 30 feet away from him, and they chase him out of the water. And this is, I would say, like a fucking active lizard demon fight. And they are still tracking it like it's a 30-year-old cold case. They're like, look here, here's where his tail scraped across this log. It's like, no, dude, you're chasing him with your gun. You're fighting him right now. But he's still like trying to prove to this audience, like, no, look, he's real. You can tell from this here tail marking.
So they chase him into the barn, and it's just like Jeff's story. It was Chekhov's barn the whole time. It's above them, and dust shakes down from the loft.
If the story is real, the lizard demon went to the barn and then closed the door behind him.
Yes, he did, and then went up in the attic to get away from them.
Right.
Now Buck has to get up there to investigate this disturbance, and it would be extremely funny if he was just mauled by raccoons as soon as he stuck his head above the floor. Because there are, like, real mundane dangers to just doing this goofy shit out in the woods and, like, sticking your head into... So clearly somebody scouted this beforehand, because otherwise, like, somebody would at least get sprayed by a skunk doing this. Like, you're fucking around in the woods, scaring everything.
Well, we know there's no raccoons upstairs because one of them was upstairs stomping to make it seem like the lizard man was up there.
Yeah, I mean, even within the fiction of this show, if you're in an old barn and you, like, some dust starts coming down from the ceiling, there are many, many, many things other than a lizard demon.
Yeah.
In fact, that should be maybe 3 or 4 on your list. Like rats, could be a cat, raccoons, lizard demon.
Raccoon can't close a barn door, though.
Not like a cat can. Wait, no, lizard demon. That's what we're hunting. Not cats. You can tell by the tail. There are little pings all around the barn, and they're very terrified by this. I don't know why. Like the lizard demon is tapping on aluminum siding.
Yeah.
Jeff's completely unfocused thermal sees nothing, yet he still says, it's headed right towards him. And it's headed right towards Trapper's team. Once again, the most dangerous part of any episode is navigating unpaved ground. Wild Bill, in the pursuit, does eat hard shit on nothing. Just falls down. Gets back up. He runs into the golf cart, and then we cut to commercial. Just as he makes this little noise like he knocked the wind out of himself, he's going like, oh! Real undignified. Like, I just really fucked myself up falling onto that grass.
And prior to this, I think we may have skipped over it a little bit, but consistently my favorite trope in the show is when they find the monster nest. So in the attic of that barn, there was a small pile of hay.
Yeah.
Like, he likes to sleep
and instead of saying, well, maybe that's a bed that he lays on, because again, they've established this creature is 7 feet tall, weighs 400 pounds. They decide that's its den that it lives in. Like, they're like, well, look, there's like a hole at the bottom where he's tunneled in there. They do this repeatedly where they will find a Sasquatch like nest, but it's a knee-high pile of like twigs. It's like always an adorable tiny little thing, because even in the Ohio Grassman episode, when they found his house in the woods, inside the house, they had to have like a pile of branches. Again, not like, well, this is his chair, like he sits on this. It's like, no, that's his hut he lives in.
But to be clear, you cannot have a tunnel on the second floor of a barn. For example, that's what most people would call a hole, and they would have seen it from the bottom floor. So for them to get to the second floor of the barn and say, he must have tunneled in through this pile of hay, you're a crazy person. And you're saying things that don't mean anything.
I like the idea that he's being chased and he like gets out of the river with his big fucking thighs and just sprints away, looking back over his shoulder, real worried, and he ducks into the barn, quietly closes the door behind him. It's like, these fucking maniacs are after me. Quickly climbs up the ladder and then runs over to his little bale of hay and worms into the hole because that's like his safe
He waited
place.
for them to come inside, and then he stomped on the ceiling above them, and tunneled through the haystack.
All right, so he's out and he's after Team Trapper. He's running right towards them, and they hear something this time. He's headed right towards them, and they hear something. They're like, "Oh shit, that's the trap. We must have got him." And so everybody scatters, and they run back to the trap. We got him this time. It was foolproof. No, the trap is still up. They specify. And then they forget to specify what the noise actually was.
It was just a mistake. And again, there's a thing where they don't do anything twice. He improvised, clearly it was supposed to be the trap closed. They get out there. He's not in the trap because that's how the show goes. So they dubbed in the noise of the trap slamming shut. And they get out there and the crew had just not closed it yet. And instead of backing up, it's like, no, close it and we'll come back. It's like, no, keep going. We can't lose this.
That motherfucker can fake trap noises. He can fucking Michael Winslow this shit. He's out there beatboxing trap noises.
Oh, we're farting. Wait, I'm not farting. How is he doing this? One of them screams he wouldn't go to bait when he's running, which is the point Jason was making earlier, that
Yes, they realize their own problem and point it out in the show. They hear another splash and all run over to the side of the river together, and Wild Bill says, What is that right in front of you, Huckleberry? Right in front of you. And then they all fucking unload their shotguns into the water over and over again. It's exactly like that scene from Predator with exactly as many pounds of man, just in a different arrangement.
Now, we had previously spoken about this. Do they have the ability to fire their guns? Because in the previous 5 episodes, there is tons and tons of pointing their shotguns, but they never discharged them. And I had theorized they simply don't have the permits or the blanks or the squibs or anything like that to do it. So we thought they're going to have to go 9 seasons of the show never discharging their shotguns. But here, they're firing live rounds. This is not an After Effects thing with muzzle flare. They're shooting these, they're ejecting shells. They are shooting shotguns.
Yeah.
They're shooting them into the water. So I don't know if they just determined, do they have the gun safety person on the set, like in that Alec Baldwin movie, whose job it is to oversee this? Or did they just do it and figure, we're shooting into the water, it'll be fine?
Well, it would be hilarious if they had a gun safety person. Imagine somebody at one of these industry things introducing themselves to you and being like, "Oh, I'm gun safety for mountain monsters."
Right.
The show where they all point guns at each other's faces all the time.
I took over for the last guy who got killed by a gun.
They constantly are violating the thing where you don't point your gun at they constantly are doing that. They're pointing their guns at each other.
They're very unsafe. Which is probably why Wild Bill does not get one. Because,
yes, he doesn't get one because he kept pulling the trigger. So he's gone. He is now mimicked. He is fucking Razel. He has beatboxed the trap noise to trick them, and then they fucking blown the shit out of a river and did not hit him. But we have established we're moving the goalposts at the end of every episode. So what we have done now is a mission accomplished. It's done. Buck says, "Well, I can promise you he ain't coming back around here." and Trapper officially declares the threat to this farmer's cattle and land is over. We have done our jobs.
Huckleberry
you
says,
just emptied all of your ammunition into a river and done nothing. Admittedly not hit him, but you have terrorized a cryptid, which is the official job of this crew. Now, they're not monster hunters, they're monster terrorizers. They don't kill, they don't even trap. They just fuck with them so hard they don't really trust the woods anymore.
Huckleberry says, I believe this lizard demon is somebody else's problem now. And they all laugh.
Yes.
So, like, to be clear, they're not heroes. They're not here to help anybody. They're
It tore Bob to pieces. It tore him to pieces. Trapper finishes saying, well, if he goes north, Pittsburgh can have him. And they all share a nasty laugh at the expense of Pittsburgh.
Fuck you, Pittsburgh.
That's how we got the Pittsburgh Lizard Demon that you've all heard so much about. That's why their basketball team is the Pittsburgh Lizard Demons. It's because
where
of this
all those
story.
urban elites live in Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. Sons of bitches.
Buck thinks it's real smart. He's like concluded that I think that lizard demon's real smart because he outsmarted
And he
us.
also says, I think this thing is just trying to stay the hell away from everybody. So they've come to the conclusion at the end of the episode, it really didn't want to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
After when they almost blown it to shit. Wild Bill says he'll think twice before he comes this way. Oorah! And they all oorah. And that's how they go out. And how we're going to go out is our favorite quote of the episode. Jason, what was yours?
When Buckleberry were exploring the cave before those stones and leaves were kicked down on them, Huckleberry said, Buck, it's thicker than beaver hair up there. Be careful. I feel like sometimes these guys try to improvise backwoods slang that has never been uttered before. And he was up on top of, again, just a cave there and some woods. It was not thick in any way. There was not really anything about the terrain. But Buck, it's thicker than beaver hair up there.
He might have been. Maybe she had a bikini wax, and that's like the joke.
Okay.
No, man,
Sean, what was...
Jason's just like, I'm not engaging at that at all.
Jason left. He has left the podcast. What was your favorite quote, Sean?
Let's see. I like when he says he wouldn't go to bait when he's running because I thought it was a really funny and weird time to think of that. But I'm going to go with, I believe this lizard demon is somebody else's problem now. I just the childlike like cruelty, just like the I do not give a shit about anybody but me type of approach to monster hunting.
Also, from a meta level, this is why this show is so magical. Because in every episode, they improvise themselves into a corner. They cannot fake a creature corpse. They cannot fake a creature death. They can't think of a way. It's like, well, we killed it and its body went downstream or something. Or we killed the Mothman and he evaporated because his electricity powers were the only thing holding his molecules together. Every episode, they improvise themselves into a corner where there's no way out of it because you've established over and over again, this thing is dangerous. It's going to become a man killer. It is losing its fear of people. You know, it travels up and down the river and comes to hunt. You've established that it's dangerous. You've established that you have to trap it. You have to kill it. And of course, the format of the show, that's not possible. And they never quite, at least through 6 episodes, never quite figure out how to nail it down so that it makes sense. There's never like a thing where, well, according to the prophecy, it'll be 35 more years before he'll reemerge from his hibernation. Never anything like that would explain like, okay, this is why the job is done. It's wonderful. So they always just have to kind of stand around saying stuff to each other and then slowly walk away in their failure.
I'd love that they built that into the premise of their show, is that they fail every single time. You're making up 100% of the rules, and you lose 100% of the time. You have written your own game and written yourself as the Washington Generals.
One final note I want to mention. Because they're just making this all up, no reason to up the stakes for the third act. They couldn't have killed off Bob. You don't have to show it. You don't have to show it. Yeah. All you have to do is have Jeff walk up and say, well, we just got the news from the sheriff overnight. Bob's gone. Wife says they just saw a big slide going into the river, and his shoes. The only thing left behind was his shoes.
They find a scrap of denim and a scrap of shirt still tucked in. That's Bob, all right. All right, my favorite quote of this episode was when Trapper very, very fatherly lays a hand on Buck's shoulder and gently says, "Is your giblets froze up?"
Because you have to be a Bigfoot, didn't you? You have to open up your mouth. You had to be a Bigfoot, didn't you? All your friends were so knocked out. You had to have the last word last night. You know what everything's about. You had to have the white hot spotlight. You had to be a Bigfoot last night. Whoa, whoa.